Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back to own my picks. That's right, UFC pay-per-view edition, 316 Dvalishvili versus Omali 2. Interesting performances, man, by a lot of fighters. We'll get into it in a minute. But the questions, of course. Number one, is Merab Dvalishvili the greatest at 135? And how long can Kayla Harrisons run at 135 be? I think very interesting question. So let's start out, bottom of the card. Kevin Holland, Vicente Luque. A lot of people misunderstood me. I was looking at the comments a little bit. I know Vicente Luque had a brain bleed. That was the injury I was talking about that had him laid out for a little while. Yeah, more than an injury, right? Because one of those things that lingers with you, it can kill you and leave permanent damage, and it makes you hesitate and think a lot more than you should in the octagon. When you're thinking about your safety, it's really hard to do that for a living. It's hard to be in combat sports when you're worried about something permanently happening to you. So I understand the people saying, oh, Vicente Luque shouldn't be fighting. That's why the odds were so skewed. First off, he had a win in between against Themba Gorimbo. Not a great name or anything, but it looked gun-shy in that fight, but did enough that I'm like, okay, maybe he could get over it. Also, I just don't trust Kevin Holland 3-1 more than I think Vicente Luque should be fighting or Vicente Luque is a great fighter. I don't think any of those things necessarily. Sure, I mean, he had a brain bleed. If you don't want to keep going, don't go. I understand why people think he shouldn't be fighting. But it was more 3-1. Kevin Holland just makes a lot of mistakes, and I would favor almost anybody, unless a total scrub making the UFC debut, 3-1 against Kevin Holland. A great example. Early in the fight, Kevin Holland rocked Vicente Luque with an elbow. They're in this pummeling position, and this isn't wrestling. He's pummeling and didn't realize he took an elbow over the top, hurt him. He goes backwards, and Kevin Holland throws his arms up and starts doing this and ate a left hook counter. Boom! Rocked him, and I go, that's Kevin Holland. You got him. Just stay tight and follow up, and you can finish the fight. Instead, he kind of like does this wild, crazy dance and gets hit, and it screwed up his attack, and I think he could have finished him right there. But that's why I went with Vicente Luque, is because Kevin Holland just does stuff where you're like, he makes decisions that it makes him fun to watch, but makes him very vulnerable in fights. So that's why I went with Kevin Holland. Vicente Luque over Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland getting the submission in round number 2. Basically, Darce choke, modified guillotine. Anaconda choke, modified guillotine. Able to get the tap in round number 2. Vicente did look gun-shy. He did look hesitant. Didn't move very, very well. You can't stay in front of Kevin Holland. You got to move and give him some different looks, and he just wasn't capable of doing any of that. Kevin Holland looked like Kevin Holland, meaning exciting, physical, explosive, but a lot of tactical mistakes. I think he could have finished, once again, the fight a little bit earlier, but Kevin Holland gets the submission in round number 2. He said, I don't want to fight young guys. I want to fight older guys and have exciting fights. I bet. But there's room for him because he fights so much and he's always entertaining. But, okay, so I start out 0-1. Not a great start. Mario Batista, Patchy mix. The most disappointing performance of the main card to me was Patchy mix. I thought Patchy mix would win this fight. He was favored, I think, by 1.5 to win the fight. He did nothing. What I mean by that is there are times when you have a game plan and the game plan doesn't work. Right? Sugan Omali, we'll get to the main event in a minute, had a game plan, it just didn't work. Then there's passively waiting for your opponent to screw up, I guess, and then allowing him to use his offense. You're not offering anything back, not committing to any takedowns, not committing to any strikes. What are you doing? Patchy Mix just kind of waited there. He was second every single time with his offense. He looked slow. He looked hesitant, looked unsure of himself. You have an amazing submission game. At least try to take the guy down, do something. And he stood there and got beat up for 3 rounds by Mario Batista. Batista, once again, if you saw my breakdown of this fight before the fight happened, I said Batista's a really good fighter. He's really good. And it's one of those things where I thought Mix was maybe a level above, or when he's firing all cylinders, he's a level above. He would have a lot to prove. Coming from Bellator, you're already saddled with, you're from the B leagues, right? And that's what people thought about Chandler. That's what people thought about MVP. And in their debuts, those guys did really, really well and kind of, dispelled that and, whatever. Patchy Mix, you're already under the gun. People already expect you to be a level below. You cannot act a level below. You can't fight a level below, and he did. The guy just laid an egg in his UFC debut, which you cannot these days afford to do. Now, I talked about before, in the breakdown to this card, how fighters have won titles after losing their UFC debut, right? It does happen. Anthony Pettis, probably the most famous example, right? Luke Rockhold, another one. But nowadays, man, it's hard. So many great fighters. It's like, okay, you're yesterday's news. It's tough. And Patchy Mix did not do himself any favors. He just didn't seem to have any offensive options. Batista looked really solid, but Batista's always been solid. This isn't a bad fighter. So when he was throwing combinations and landing and hitting Patchy Mix, I was like, all right, are you going to do something? Because if you just let the guy beat you up, yeah, he's going to look great. He's going to look fantastic. Going to look like a world beater. And it was just disappointing to watch a guy that, potential contender if he had won, absolutely lay an egg. And Batista looked good. He's gone up in the rankings since this fight. Good for him. Excellent performance. But I'm disappointed we didn't see more out of Patchy Mix. That was probably the most disappointing performance. Patchy Mix is going to have to really make up some ground now in a division that is becoming increasingly crowded. So 0-2 I start out. Thought Patchy Mix would win that one. Thank God for Kelvin Gastelum. Joe Pyfer winning by unanimous decision over Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum, to me, I've never liked his work ethic. He's always missing weight, which is a work ethic thing, right? Discipline and all these things. The nuts and bolts of being a great fighter, you got to be disciplined. And that's always been a problem for him. He's a small 185er, to say the least. When you saw these two guys in the octagon, you could not believe these guys weighed in the same. Are you kidding me? Pyfer was massive. And all Kelvin Gastelum had was this leaping overhand to get inside. Worked every now and then. I think he outlanded him in significant strikes, I think in round 2, if I'm not mistaken. But he didn't have... One of the problems with Kelvin Gastelum, why I never had a ton of faith in him at 70 and 85, and especially now when he's over the hill, is he just never had a ton of tools in the toolkit. He could... If he catch you, he could crack you. Right? He's always had power, stocky, strong, but he had to kind of put everything together to take on these guys who are just naturally a lot bigger and generally more well-rounded than he is. And he's not able to do that anymore. Right? He doesn't have the trick plays he used to have. He doesn't have the things that he had at one point to cover the distance against taller, bigger guys. And you saw it very limited. Overhand. I'm going, well, Pyfer can see that. Pyfer fought very, very tall, kept his jab way out there, and he knew if he kept Kelvin Gastelum on the outside, he could beat him, and he did. Knocked him down, twice in round 1? This ability, he cracked him a few times, and I didn't think letting him up was the greatest idea on earth. You're not dealing with a jiu-jitsu wizard. You keep him in the guard, you can beat him up pretty good, and a few times he let him up. Thought Pyfer could have gotten the finish. I thought this fight was closer than it had to be. Let me put it that way. Pyfer looked good, solid, fought a really conservative game, which is use my jab to keep the shorter guy on the outside. Avoid the big overhand, pick him apart, land big punches, and that's what he did. But once again, there were a few times when he could have, I think, maybe pushed the issue a little bit and got the finish. And the UFC generally appreciates guys who do that. So if you want to move up, like, okay, I'm going to take this guy out of here. I don't necessarily like guys who win by decision all the time, but Joe Pyfer gets the win over Kelvin Gastelum, so I am a 1-2. Predicted that one. This next one depends on, I guess, how you see it, because I told you when I broke this one down, Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison is going to win. But the only way you make any money is by betting on Juliana Pena and hoping that she pulls off another upset like she did, obviously, against Amanda Nunes. Well, Kayla Harrison won. So, the person I told you was going to win won, but the only way you're going to make money is betting on Juliana Pena, which is true too. So, however you see this one, it's up to you. Kayla Harrison looked physically dominant, which everyone knew she would be. She is strong as a damn bull at 135 pounds. If you don't know, 2-time Olympic gold medalist in judo, powerful, strong. Every time she got inside and got her judo going, her ground and pound, her top control, her passes, her submissions, she was just dominant. Juliana Pena had nothing for her on the ground. Now, those are the positives. Right? Got a Kimura right at the end, by the way. Whenever somebody gets a submission with maybe 10 seconds left in the round, there were 5 seconds left when she tapped her, that's impressive because a lot of people will hold out for 5-10 seconds and go, all right, I'm just burying my hand, and all right, 10. Because your corner yells at you, 30 seconds, where they let you know how much time is left. So when you give up that Kimura, you're like, F this, I got 15 seconds, I'm holding on, and she couldn't hold on to anything. Nothing, right? Went from this goofy... awkward kind of head and arm triangle position right into the Kimura, cranked it, and it's over. 5 seconds left in the round. That says a lot. Those are the positives. What are the negatives? When I used to teach MMA, I don't really teach MMA anymore. Back when I did, one of the things I said is you have to kickbox like you don't know how to wrestle. Okay? You have to wrestle like you don't know any jiu-jitsu. You have to do jiu-jitsu like you can't get up and kickbox. Right? You have to commit 100% to what you're doing. and learn to get really good at that all by itself. Now, Kayla Harrison's striking is solid. It's good. It is all to set up clinch positions, meaning she kind of leans and gets what they call over her skis. She kind of leans a little bit and throws these kind of wide punches to get inside and clinch on you. So she is naturally powerful. She can just hit just because she's built like a damn tank. So, but you see how she's kind of off. She's not kickboxing to kickbox. She's kickboxing to set up her clinch game. That isn't bad, right? A lot of fighters, especially grapplers, wrestlers, Michael Chandler's a great example. They learn, a 1-2 hook and they think they're Sugar Ray Robinson. They want to outbox everybody. When they should be using those crisp strikes to maybe set up the occasional double leg. So that isn't bad. Taking on Amanda Nunes will box with you. She will crack and knock you out. You have to be comfortable not being able to get a takedown and being forced to some degree to kickbox with a really good kickboxer. You got to get there. She's not there yet. We saw that in the Larissa Pacheco fight. When she couldn't get Larissa Pacheco down and it was all a kickboxing match, she's just not super fluid. She's not quite, which is understandable. She's been doing judo her whole life. She didn't start MMA until very, very late. As I said in previous breakdowns, guys like Bo Nickel, how much can you learn having done one thing your whole effing life? Now you got to learn this whole different thing that requires a completely different skill set. You're never going to be great at it. But that's an issue, is she's kind of leaning over her skis, trying to throw these strikes in order to set up her takedown. And if you leave that kind of opening, Amanda Nunes is going to crack you and put you down. Juliana Pena, not a one-punch knockout striker, period. Okay, so the idea that she could take a couple, get in, get the takedown, that's going to be tough against Amanda Nunes. What do I think of her reign at 135, right? She's the queen right now. Great for her. I really like Kayla Harrison personally and professionally. She's great. The cut is going to get harder and harder and harder, and she is cutting a massive amount of weight. A massive amount. Juliana Pena did not look to be the same weight class at all of Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison looked monstrous in there. So one of the things I worry about, not only is she's got to make her striking cleaner to deal with a real striker who's going to really have pocket presence and be able to land knockout punches. I worry about that. And the weight cut. How long can she get down to 135 pounds? I don't know. That is really, really tough. Because, she was winning gold in the Olympics in the 170s. So 40 pounds heavier than she's fighting now? 40 pounds. That is nuts. She's doing it now, but as the older you get and the more you do it, the harder it gets. It's the nature of weight cutting, and there's nowhere else to go. 145 is not a division anymore. So I worry about, how long she can stay at this weight class and she has all the tools, I think, to hold it for a while, especially if she really just a couple more little things when it comes to her striking and her ability to transition from striking to the ground. So skill set, she's got it. She's a physical monster. Can she keep making the cut? If you bet against her, which, as I said when I broke this one down, the only way you make money is betting on Juliana Pena, is the cut really hurts her and she can't handle those last couple rounds. We never got that far, so we don't know. Against Amanda Nunes, we're going to find out. I'll break it down as this gets closer. I don't want to do like a pre-breakdown or anything like that, but you got to be ready to go 5 hard rounds. You got to have really solid striking because she can knock you out. You can't rely on getting the takedown every time you need it. She's monstrous. So it's going to be interesting, but it's a big money fight. Congratulations, Kayla Harrison. Looked great. So however you count it, I'm either 2-2 or 2-1-0, whatever. 0-1. Merab Dvalishvili, Sugan Omali. Went pretty much how I thought it would. The only thing that was different was he got the submission at the end of round 3. Merab Dvalishvili did. I thought, by decision would have been the smart call. And he wins by north-south choke. Round 3, 4:42 in. Merab just looked better than Sugan. It reminded me a little bit, although it wasn't like that crazy dominant, of Anderson Silva, Rich Franklin too. People forget Rich Franklin was a really respected champion at 185 pounds. I had seen Anderson Silva before because I paid attention to MMA in Japan, and I knew how good he was coming to the UFC. Most people did not. He had blown away Chris Lieben. Lieben was good, not great. And then he took on Rich Franklin, and he crushed Rich Franklin in the first fight. In the second fight, he did the same thing the same way. Got him in the clinch and just folded his face. And everybody went, okay, he's better. Had the rematch. It was more dominant than the first time. Clipped him and dropped him and almost finished him in the end of round 1, if you remember that fight. this idea of, okay, oh, they fought, let's have a rematch and see. And then in the rematch, we're like, oh, okay, he's better. Merab is better than Sugan Omali. Period. End of sentence. Okay? So, tenacious with the takedown, sharp with his boxing. A lot of people thought that Sugan Omali looked gun-shy. I mean, you just can't. You have to be judicious in when you unload against a really tough guy who's an excellent wrestler. You don't want to let them underneath a big shot. They'll take you down, and you're spending a whole round on your butt. He didn't want that. So I don't know if it's gun-shy or he was just being tactically smart and try to move and clip and throw right hands judiciously so that this guy can't just go underneath him and take me down. What was it? Round 2, he successfully stopped some takedowns, right? It was a close round 2. Round 3, Merab took him down, was all over him like white on rice. Just tenacious ground and pound, able to shuck him down into a front choke position. He turned to get out of the front choke position, ended up in north-south, and whoop, it was on top. It was over. Absolutely over. So Merab just showed that as much as Sugan Omali worked on his takedown defense, Merab's striking got better than Sugan Omali's takedown defense got. Meaning his takedown defense did get better, but Merab's striking, I think, really improved. He just looked better. I think he was for most of the fight, he was outstriking Sugan, and then when it came to the takedown, the top control, and the submissions, he's always going to have a better game than that than Sugan. Well, Sugan isn't bad. So we know who's the better guy. So the big questions coming out of this fight, there are 2 of them. Number 1, is Merab Dvalishvili the greatest 135-pounder of all time? Most weight classes in the UFC have one fighter who, when it comes to title defenses, is heads and tails above everybody else. Heads and tails above everybody else, right? There's usually that one. 145 is Jose Aldo, right? 170 it's GSP. 185 it's Anderson Silva. 205 is John Jones. Heavyweights is Stipe Miocic, right? Now, you can make arguments that someone in their prime is better than that person. A lot of people say Cain Velasquez in his prime is the best UFC heavyweight of all time. Well, he didn't have the defenses of Stipe Miocic. So when we say number 1, generally it's a fighter with the most title defenses, right? Numbers-wise. It's a numbers game. You notice I didn't mention 55. 35 and 55 don't have that. 25 has DJ, right? 35 and 55 don't have that. So there are a few candidates for number 1 at 135. It could be Renan Barão. Could be Dominic Cruz. Could be Aljamain Sterling. Could be Merab. So, because there isn't anyone who had all those title defenses. In his prime, for people who remember Dominic Cruz, he was injured half the time. So he would get on a run, get injured, get stripped, come back, win, get injured again. So the reason he's not the unquestioned GOAT is he was injured all the time. So he doesn't have the defenses over and over and over again of a John Jones or an Anderson Silva or Demetrius Johnson. He doesn't have that. So 35 has a few candidates. So the fact that he has defended his title twice puts him in rare air. There aren't many title defenses at 135. His skill set is a mother. It's just hard to beat a guy like this. Now, Nurmagomedov came very, very close. If Nurmagomedov wins one more round, he's champion. So it's not as though he's looked untouchable, right? He's not like a prime Anderson Silva. You go, I can't imagine anyone beating him. He's very, very tough, but Nurmagomedov looked good. He does eat punches. He just has kind of a reckless style sometimes where he can get a little wild and drop his hands. So he can get clipped. He can get hurt. It's this idea that his whole style altogether is tough. Georgian wrestling, strong as an ox, good submission game. His striking's rapidly improved. He has an endless gas tank, seems to really, really enjoy fighting. All that together makes him tough. So one more, and I'm willing to put him number 1 all time, one more title defense. Probably Nurmagomedov, a rematch with him, which is great. The second question, where does Sugan Omali go? Everybody's talking about him at 45. I don't necessarily see it. And the reason I don't is, as I tell people all the time who talk about changing weight classes, your power punch is no longer powerful. Period. Now, the people who favored Sugan Omali in this rematch went, man, he can crack. All he needs is 1. 45, he's going to need more than 1. Right? I'm not saying he's not a powerful puncher or that he wouldn't be powerful at 45, but the bang and it's done, like he hit Aljo, kind of one and done and boom. He can't do that at 45. He's going to have to chain combinations together much better, take it on bigger guys. Now, the good news is a lot of those guys are aging out. Every time I talk about 45, I talk about, look, a lot of those guys are pretty long in the tooth. He might be able to catch some of those veterans who have been around for a long time, been through a lot of wars. He's younger and a bit fresher, and he can be a factor at 45, maybe. Maybe. But stylistically, he's a skinny, tall guy. He doesn't have a 145-pound frame. Doesn't have, the width and the muscle to really compete with those guys physically. He's going to have to move and angle and pop shot. Now, he doesn't have crazy fight-ending power at 45. So you've got to keep that up for a long time. When I talk about weight cutting, I talk about Conor McGregor taking on a hydrated 170-pound Nate Diaz and cracking him, and Nate just took it and kept coming, and Conor went, oh, crap. That's usually the money punch, and it's over. Similar kind of thing. You have to adjust your style. You got to be a better combination striker. Also, people tend to forget, if you're popular, you can stay in the UFC a long time not fighting for title and make a lot of money and have a good career. Right? The aforementioned Nate Diaz. Who did he fight for a title? Anybody? That's right, Benson Henderson. And he got owned for 5 rounds. He got shellacked. He didn't do anything to Benson Henderson. And was never fought for a title again. And made a lot of money and kept fighting in the UFC. So if he stays at 35, he's not going to fight for a title again until there's some turnover, right? So Merab would have to lose to somebody. But Sugar Sean's a popular guy. He can make money still fighting. So the idea, I'm going to go to 45. I don't see him winning a title at 45. I'd love to be surprised. Maybe he does something different. But the idea that there's room for him at 45, yes, it's an older division. Yes, it needs some new blood. But is he new blood? I mean, he's been through a lot. So I don't think style-wise it works that well for him at 45. But let me know what you think in the comment section. As always, I'm here for you, Jimmy Smith. I'll see you for the next one.